One of the keys to YouTube success is keeping your audience engaged from start all the way to finish. But how exactly do you do that? Let's dive into some simple and proven strategies that'll work for you today.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to see you here for another Video Creators Podcast episode like we do here every Monday for you, brought to you by vidIQ. We're just hanging out today, sharing more advanced growth tips and tactics, next level strategies, growing your business, helping you reach more people and change lives. And I am hanging out with Sam and Blake, two of the YouTube strategists here on our team. Guys, I'm pretty excited today. Want to know why?
Give us the tea. Spill the tea.
It's patio day. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know Michael and I, we spend an insane amount of time on our patio in the summer. But see what I did there? But.
That was good.
A little tease there. But this year, we have been planning this project for 2 years. And finally today, I thought it was going to be done, but it's almost done. Not everything came. How many plants do you guys think we planted over the weekend?
I feel like this has been a work in progress for a while, so I don't even have a number. I'm imagining a lot.
Okay, so if anybody here is a landscaper, or this is like what you do for a living, cover your ears because it'll probably hurt you to hear that I planted 263 flowers and herbs in 1,000 square feet of planter beds.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks absolutely awesome. Of course, they're all baby plants, so it'll take a couple of years for everything to grow in, but I've planned a border to keep the deer away from everything. I've got a plan. So if you guys know of any amazing YouTube gardening channels, please leave me a comment and tell me, because I have a black thumb and it's my mission to keep these all alive. Stop laughing. It's my mission to keep the garden alive at least throughout the year and hopefully for many years to come. Yeah, it's a big task.
Every week, we love to highlight a creator that we worked with. And this week, I got to sit down with Carrie Wallace, who has a channel called Confident Prosperity. And here's a bit of our conversation together.
My whole raison d'etre, if you like, is to help people to shine with confidence so that they can get their message out there. They can get their message heard, because there's a lot of professionals in the coaching business, in counseling, consultants, healers, that I sort of group them together really as help professionals that have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of expertise, but they don't know how to reach the people that need them. So that's kind of what I'm all about. So I thought if I created a YouTube channel, then I can share strategies and tips and my journey and experiences over the years supporting people in that field.
I guess in your YouTube journey, what has been some of the speed bumps you've had along the way, these obstacles you've been trying to face, and how have you overcome them?
I think one of the biggest obstacles that I have, and I know from my client base it's not an uncommon obstacle, is there's so many ideas buzzing in my head that it's very challenging to get them out of my head and actually into content that's consumable. What I found particularly helpful, so to answer the question, how did I overcome this melee of ideas that were in my head, was the structure of the program and the process really made me pause and think, okay, what am I actually looking to do here? What do I want? Sorry, I've just hit the mic. What do I want to achieve? What's the best way to deliver that bit of message? So it's really been helpful to hone my message down for each individual video into, and I've always been a fan of bite-sized content, but building the YouTube channel has really forced me to think even more in that bite-sized content and how in 5 minutes can I convey this concept as opposed to this concept and this, that, and the other, which is just way too much and
Right.
can lead to overwhelm.
I guess in terms of working with us with video creators, what are some of the kind of the key takeaways you've gotten from your time with us?
Well, first and foremost, which totally aligns with my own philosophy of focus on the people, and even more than that, focus on one particular person.
Yeah.
Your ideal client, as some people call it, I like to refer as best fit client, client persona, whatever your title for it is. Focus on that one individual and make your video for that person.
Right.
That has helped to really make sure that the content of each video is very specific.
Right.
And following on from that is making the thumbnails complement the title. I mean, in the literally handful of videos that I had on the channel, I think it were about 6 or something, my title simply repeated the thumbnails, or the thumbnails repeated the title. Never occurred to me that there was another way to do it. But having learned the power of having a title or a thumbnail that complements the title and vice versa, wow, that really was a wow moment. And gosh, how simple is that? And yet, what a difference it makes.
Now, let's just say there's a creator like you who's maybe starting out or kind of the same place you are. What's a piece of advice you'd give them knowing what you know now?
The first thing I think I would say is really be clear on your objective, on your purpose. What is it that you want to achieve? And once you're clear on that, then map out, if you like, your message. What is it that you want to say? What are the components of that message? And then once you've got that, that's your, if you like, your foundation, your framework that you can then almost infinitely use to create content, because you can then take a single piece of that message and create a video or a series of videos that talk about that. And from that, you might then go on to, there might be a natural step into the next step in your process, or a complementary piece of information, something that you really need to have in place before you can take that step, so that, you almost have infinite ideas for content for your channel. Being somebody who does tend to talk around a subject, it's been very useful. And the advice I would give to anybody is be clear on your message, be clear on your purpose, be clear on your message, so that when you do come to create content, you can be concise.
Right.
If you can say, I can't remember what Tim says, well, be brief, baby, be brief. I should have it tattooed on my forehead.
Or 5 Bs.
Because if you can say something concisely, say it concisely.
Yeah.
You don't need to keep going on. And I've learned that more from watching the videos that have been recommended and finding what irritates me. And sometimes you feel yourself going, oh, just get to the point, just really get to the point, man.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to look at that and go, okay, yeah, I definitely don't do that. Something I need to do. So that would be a strong piece of advice to people. But you can't be concise on your message unless you're clear what your message is and you're clear what your purpose is.
Carrie, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate chatting with you once again. It's been awesome having you in Video Labs, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I love what Carrie was talking about, just knowing your message, being clear on your purpose, so that when you come to create your content, you can just be concise about what you're trying to communicate. And if you need help with that and laying your foundation and understanding the strong foundation of a channel, we'd love to work with you and hear a bit about your story as well, too. So if you'd like to work with either myself or Sam or anybody else on the team, feel free to go to videocreators.com/discovery call to book a 15-minute session there, and we could chat with you and get to know a bit about your story, your problems you're facing, and we'd love to support you in that.
Okay, full disclosure, this is like take 2, because Sam, he just laughed. He just could not stop thinking about a video. Because even thinking about the video at this moment, after watching it probably months ago, who knows how long ago, it actually captured him so much that he actually got lost in what we were saying.
That's actually a really good point.
Right? Which is actually kind of what this entire topic is about today. This is about how do we keep people watching our content so that when it ends, it's like a surprise, but they're so super engaged in what's going on. The only choice is actually to move on and watch more, or just really kind of take that in, kind of like you, Sam, right? Even just thinking about this topic today.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That was posted, the video we were thinking of, I mean, definitely over a month ago, probably a few months ago. And we were just joking about it, recalling some of the funny parts and things that stuck out. So yeah, it's a great example.
Yeah, it makes it memorable. I mean, I think I've watched that video itself, my goodness, half a dozen times just because of how engaging it was and just the amount of laughing I get from that. So that's the power.
Yeah. It's really about the importance of viewer engagement on YouTube, because if you really are going to succeed on YouTube, this is a key point that I really want you guys to master. So this is about the relationship between engagement in your content and Alfie on that day, or Alfred
that's a good day.
on another day. Yes, Alfred, not so much, the YouTube algorithm, right? So what are your guys' thoughts on the relationship between engagement and Alfie or Alfred?
Yeah, well, I feel like there's definitely maybe a misconception floating around that it's only titles and thumbnails. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of get that vibe a lot from the creators that come in and meet with us. And it's, well, if I'm going to be surfaced to more people, you know, the algorithm is going to like bless me on this day. It's all with the titles and thumbnails. And it's definitely a really important piece of that. But I don't think there's a lot of emphasis on the actual engagement from start to finish in your video. When we look at the retention graph, you know, does that play a part with the algorithm and the same decisions that it's making as far as discoverability goes and things like that? And it absolutely does, because YouTube is an ads business. It's trying to keep people on YouTube longer. So it's going to be really favorable if you can keep somebody on the platform for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned too, people put a lot of them, titles and thumbnails are important, but it's like, you know, if you like a house, like the house can look beautiful on the outside, a really beautiful door. I walk in and everything's messy. I'm probably going to walk out again too. So like the idea of having that strong content inside of that, like everything goes hand in hand. All these different tools we talk about, nothing's more important than the other. They're all very much important with each other. And yeah, YouTube wants the same thing that we want. We want to be engaged. We want to be entertained. We want to enjoy the content and want to go back and watch it half a dozen times. That's what we want. That's what YouTube understands that we want, which is why, you know, it focuses on that, because that means you stay on the platform longer. That means they make money. That means creators make money. It's kind of that whole ecosystem there.
Yeah, and you're really talking about viewer satisfaction, which YouTube measures in the form of surveys, right? I'm sure all of you out there have gotten a survey at some point. Would you why did you enjoy this content, or would you recommend this content? Or I don't remember the exact verbiage, but I'm sure a lot of you have gotten that. And, you know, having somebody feel something, have some sort of an emotional connection to your content is a powerful thing, but that doesn't just happen at the end, right? You have to really start at the very beginning. And it does start with title and the thumbnail, but we're not going to focus on those today. Today, we're going to focus on the actual making of the content. So where do you feel like this really truly begins? And I know that we bring up a lot of creators that are large, and the podience has reached out to us and said, hey, bring us some smaller channel examples. And there are so many, but there are also some really classic videos that are such great examples. I do want to talk about one larger creator today, and that is the Shrek video, the thing that made Sam laugh. Yes. I don't remember the exact title. Do you guys know the title of the video?
Oh my God.
No, we could find it real quick.
Yeah, it's something about Shrek Fest. It's with Ryan Trahan. It was a few months ago. We'll link it in the description or in the show notes so that you guys can all very easily get there.
I survived a Shrek festival. That's what the title is.
Yeah, and that is just so, first off, it's super intriguing. And I think there are some really good strategies that he used, right, to hook somebody right from the beginning, because that's where it starts. So what are your guys' thoughts on hooks for viewers from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it's super important. Actually, just to touch on even Ryan Trahan himself, being a bigger creator, the reason we use him as an example, or even using it today, a lot of his content now, yes, is getting him a lot of views, but there was a point in time where he started to really decline because he just didn't have a direction in his content. And when he focused on putting the viewer first, and the story behind that, it's really, really cool. When he changed his mentality and focused on the viewer first, he took his what was declining and dying channel as now skyrocketed it. So it's just a great example of like, hey, it's relatable in a way of like, a lot of us creators, when we're working through these sorts of things, it can be a struggle watching our channel go up and then slowly go back down, or even have a fast decline. But these are really great examples of people who've been in the same boat and have found success through, again, going back to the target audience, knowing that they want to deliver a gift to their audience, entertain their audience, engage their audience. And yeah, it definitely starts with the hook for sure. I think, the first couple seconds, I mean, the video itself, I survived a Shrek festival. I'm going to want to see some representation of that in the first few seconds. And when you're one common trap I see creators fall into is they might tease something in the thumbnail. Actually, the other day I worked with a creator. He teased something really great in the thumbnail. I didn't see it until 10 minutes into the video. It's like, that's something you want to see right away to first of all, tell me I'm in the right place, but to build upon that tension, your title, thumbnail, and your hook all tying together. So it's crucial to have what's being teased in your title and thumbnail shown in your first few seconds to increase that engagement right off the bat.
Yeah, if I could piggyback on that, I want to emphasize that you just said it's shown in the opening seconds. And this is where it really does tie into the title and thumbnail pretty heavily, because, I've had the same sort of experience where there's a really compelling or really intriguing title and thumbnail with a creator that I'm working with. And then as soon as the video opens, it's a different shot. And then what you can do is, how you can scrub ahead on the timeline in the YouTube player. People will start to scrub ahead or just mouse over and look for the visual that matches the thumbnail, because that's what I clicked for, and that I don't really care about all the setup and the premise. I just want to get to what I came for. And so every time we see it in retention graphs every day, there's always a dip, and then it comes back up right when they finally kind of reinforce that thumbnail image. So I think even visually, there's a lot of power in just picking up right where the thumbnail left off in those opening seconds.
I feel.
Nope,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say,
You guys are too nice.
No, you.
No, you. Go ahead, Ingrid.
I feel like this is something that Scott from Driver 61. Yeah, I know he's a big channel, guys, but still. He was not when he put this video out. He had under 400,000, which I know still is a rather large sum, but considering he's well over 1 million, I mean, it was a long time ago. His biggest video on his channel is just the hook is so expertly done. Teases a really intriguing, compelling visual story with a compelling title that really makes you curious. It's how dragster tires accelerate to 335 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds. But the opening shot is almost the continuation of the visual story that he teased in the thumbnail. So if you can imagine a tire that's going so fast that it starts to crinkle, and then he adds the word "so soft" in the thumbnail, your mind is like, tires aren't soft. At least I'm a girl. All right. I'm a girl. All you guys out there listening, cars are not my thing. To me, that doesn't make sense. Right? So when he opens the video and the tire is all of a sudden in motion, it's almost as if it's spun right off of the thumbnail and into the first shot. And he just drops you right in, just like Ryan did in the Shrekfest video. He continued the story. The title and thumbnail are the first line of your video. The hook is the second. So it's almost like they have to make sense one right after another, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just confusing for the audience. I think if there's, if the Shrek video, that was the thumbnail, and there's this story being introduced in the title, and now all of a sudden you're curious, and then you click into it, and he's like, let's just say, for example, he's sitting in a Starbucks, drinking some coffee, like reading a book or something like that.
Starbucks, drinking coffee. Ryan, drinking?
It's the first thing. I'm thinking of coffee. I've got my coffee right here. So coffee's on the mind today. But, if there was something that was just totally different, and then he just kind of took his time talking about the coffee he was drinking and all these other things that wasn't related at all to the title and thumbnail, that confusion can really be dangerous for keeping a viewer, because you will get viewers who will skip ahead, but you're also going to get a lot of viewers who leave, and you don't want to give your viewer an excuse to click off and click away.
Yeah, I think one fear I hear from creators too as well when it comes to showing the title and thumbnail in the first few seconds, like, oh, I don't want to give it away, and then they'll leave. And I understand that as well too, but there's ways of getting around that. Again, you can show moments like climax moments from your video to come up, and one of those moments could be that title and thumbnail. Now I can show it and give context to it without giving away the entire video. So don't be afraid to show that, because again, people are going to want to see it. For any of you listening, I'm sure you click into a video, you're expecting to see what you signed up for in the first few seconds. So you can touch upon that, quickly back out of it, and then start the story off. But at least I've had that stimulation. Okay, I'm in the right place. I've seen what I want to see. I know it's about to come, about to show up later in the video. I'll be patient now that I've gotten some sort of resolution a little bit, but I want to see more.
Yeah, the three of us have seen an insane amount of retention graphs, client retention graphs over the years. And one pattern that is clearly established when you really start to analyze that graph is if you don't first confirm that they're in the right place, your abandonment's going to be steep. It's going to continue to be steep until they feel like they have a little bit of what they clicked in for, or they're just going to leave. Then you'll see like a slight little kink where they feel like the video's starting, or they feel like we're moving on forward into the story a little bit. I think like for a practical exercise for everybody, even if this is not like your pattern of watching, I would love to give everybody homework of watching shorts. Because I feel like shorts, because the ones that YouTube are going to surface to you are ones that are really successful. And the ones that are really successful, they hook you within literally 1 to 3 seconds. You don't have any kind of time in a short like you do like long form content. But the point is, if you can't establish why somebody is interested based off the title or just being dropped into the moment right away, people are going to swipe on. So I think it's a good practical lesson to just, what are your viewer signals there? What causes you to swipe away? And when you stay, and if it's something that doesn't interest you, I encourage you to not swipe away, but watch and really kind of think about, why aren't you engaged in this short? What are they not necessarily doing? So it's kind of like the same homework that we give a lot of people that we work with, and clients and in classes, of just really observing their own viewer signals. But I would love for you to do that in short form content to really kind of figure out the long form content as well. Right?
Yeah, if I could add on to the homework,
more homework from Sam. You can't blame me; it's all Sam.
Hey, we're talking about analytics. I'm getting excited over here, so you got to hold me back. But for this, if you're a creator listening and you've done a lot of shorts, another maybe helpful exercise with this could be to go look at your own shorts in your analytics and look at the viewed versus swiped away metrics. Mm-hmm. You can see a percentage that basically tells you what percentage of these people actually stayed and viewed your short versus what percentage of them actually just kept going and swiped right past it. So if you have a good library of shorts, it could be a good idea to just look at maybe the highest percentage of the ones that were viewed, and then the lowest percentage, and just what do you notice? Maybe take some notes, pick out what did I notice in my opening hooks that maybe kept people watching versus swiping away.
Yeah, this is a good conversation too, I think, because a lot of what I see when I look at shorts doing consultations, people I feel like there's a separation between the long form content and the short form content and the way they approach it. So people go into just creating shorts as, I'm going to take a clip from a video and throw it in there, or quickly just film something random and put it up there. And it's like, short is a really great exercise. If you can tell a really effective story within 60 seconds, like your long form content will benefit so much from that, because having a strong hook in a short makes all the difference. And really taking the time, again, because at this point, you're forced to think quickly. How can I grab someone's attention as fast as possible? And if it is reusing, you know, some of your videos or a podcast or whatever they may be, thinking about, okay, what's a high tension moment I can use from that podcast to be the hook. But the approach towards shorts is the exact same when it comes to video structure, you know, strong hook, storytelling, you know, conclusion, like all those sorts of things are going to be super beneficial in the long run.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, I'm almost curious, like, what are the patterns that you uncover the more you watch and the more you dig into your own graphs too? Because when you start to see that, that really can cause a lot of light bulb moments and really unlock a lot for you. So you guys have been already kind of touching on storytelling. Let's talk a little bit about the power of storytelling, and really how it actually directly relates to retention specifically. Like, why does it even matter on YouTube?
Oof, that's a big question. There's so much you could say to that. I think the first thought that comes to mind is I think just as human beings, we connect with a good story. And YouTube is such a human-driven, human-tweaked platform. It's everything is crafted for the human. You know, we're talking about the algorithm and how it makes those decisions on how many people is this newest video going to be shown to. And so things like storytelling can just be such powerful tactics for creating a connection with a human being, and it feeds into all of these things. It leads to better retention, which keeps somebody on the platform longer. The viewer satisfaction piece, it's a little harder to quantify, but you were talking about that earlier, Ingrid, with the surveys. That is a way you can measure the viewer satisfaction, but there's also the part that you can't measure, kind of like at the beginning of this episode, us laughing about the Shrek video. You know, we watched it months ago, but that is a sign of viewer satisfaction if we can remember that. And we came back to the channel to watch more content because we were satisfied with that video, and it all revolves around a good story. So those are maybe just a couple thoughts that come to mind for me. There's really just so much value that can come from good storytelling on YouTube.
Yeah, stories have been around
if I can just clarify something really quick. Sorry, Blake.
No, go ahead.
Something that he said, just to clarify, you can't specifically measure those surveys. YouTube can, but they won't let us have that.
Maybe one day.
They won't let us please give us access. I would love that. They're never going to give us access to that. I would love that. Sorry, Blake. Okay, it's all you.
Totally fine. I was just going to say, I mean, stories have been around for centuries. I mean, for like even before like we started, I don't know, was it BC? Mm-hmm. Like there's stories that existed forever. Like it's something that's passed down from generation to generation because of how powerful they are. You know, ask anybody about their family history. There's probably some story they can tell you. It affects everything too. I mean, and the reason why it's so powerful, I can think of like, you know, if you're a reader, a lot of people will find more engagement reading a novel that's nonfiction, has a story to it, than going and reading, you know, a textbook for high school, which is why we struggled so much through that. But it's because it's not holding our attention as much. Everything that holds our attention has a story in some aspect of it, whether that be a TV show, a movie, a book, or a comic book, anything like that. Stories, you know, around a campfire. People tell those ghost stories. That's always the tension in those will always hold you in, right? Rather than telling like a, you know, series of events. I'm like, this happened. Like there's always something that's, and the thing is too, is it creates a relation between, like it pulls me in. You want to be pulled into the story. Anytime I'm reading a novel or watching a movie, I feel like I'm part of it. I feel like I'm the main character. I might feel like I'm a side character, but I feel the emotions. When someone dies, you know, I tear up. When something funny happens, I laugh with them. When someone's struggling, trying to run away from a monster, I'm like, yo, hurry up. Someone goes underwater, I hold my breath. I don't know why, but I do it because that's part of the story. It really pulls you in, and that's how strong. And that's why we say like it revolves all around the world around everything else. When it comes to YouTube, it's no different. To keeping someone's attention, to hold them in, they want to feel like they're a part of the story at the same time. They want to feel included.
Yeah, and I think too of like Michael, he watches, and for those of you who don't know who that is, Michael is my husband. You stop with air quotes. Only Tim does that. Now
Bring him on the podcast.
He has to tease me in some other way. Yeah. You know, he consumes YouTube on TV. So he doesn't lean in watching YouTube. He leans back on YouTube. So for him, you know, he will not stay for something that's not story driven, even like how-to stuff, right? Storytelling really does matter. And like you guys were talking about, building like suspense and tension in there and just really having some sort of an emotional connection is so, so important. Yeah. So I'm curious, what are like your experiences with storytelling with some of your clients? You guys have any good stories that the audience could actually get something from?
Yeah, I've got a story. I worked with a creator who she creates a lot of videos and material around like Bible studies and kind of like tips and tricks for more like reading the Bible sorts of things. And so we started working together, and she's kind of like, I am just a little tired of making the same stuff over and over, and I want to try some different types of content, things that maybe have more of a story behind them. And so she did a few videos where she would go out, go out to like a mall or go out in person to these places and try they were almost like challenge videos. One of them, she paid people to do a Bible study with her. So she would give them, I think it was like $20 or something like that at a mall, and they'd sit down and do a study together, that kind of a thing. And so it was really cool to see kind of actually all of these things that we're talking about. She set the story up at the beginning. There were the stakes, there was the tension, there were obstacles because there were some people who just were kind of really off put or just didn't want to hear it or were kind of rude. But there also were some really cool stories too, where she connected with people, and kind of like Blake, what you were saying, as far as the viewer, you almost kind of take on the feelings or the situation. You almost feel like you're taking place in the story as well, like you're one of the characters. It was the same kind of thing. It really felt like I was taking on the emotions of the characters in the video as well. So that was really cool. It was a really cool example of kind of going for it and changing up her content style a little bit and kind of incorporating this new style of video into her publishing schedule.
Yeah, I worked with a creator who I feel like for a lot of people, sometimes they start getting bored of their content. And I feel like they're putting information out there, but they don't know what they're doing. And one creator I worked with started experimenting a lot with storytelling to the point where I can almost see the joy a lot more in what he's creating. Like he's pushed himself so much when it comes to thinking of that story structure. And we were going back and forth for a while talking about different videos he was working on. But the intentionality he's putting in his videos, I think, has gone farther than what he ever expected. But because I think story not only for the audience to enjoy, I think the creator finds joy out of trying to think about how can I build moments of tension, emotion. How can I convey a moral through metaphors, that sort of thing. So I've seen for a few creators how it takes them from being bored with their content to excited to experiment and try to do something different and really see that pay off in the long run. And he's definitely seen that in his content. Yeah,
I remember a couple of students in Video Labs, actually, both in the same space, both like cruising channels, but one of them was a little bit more established, so felt like there was a little bit at stake here for taking a swing, right? And it felt really awkward. It's like, I'm a how-to channel, I educate people on stuff. How am I gonna work this into my content? And the other channel, she was much smaller. She had about 30,000 subscribers, if I remember, 35,000 subscribers when she started. Both of them leaned fully forward into storytelling, took lots of swings, made lots of mistakes, but at the same time saw their retention graphs go from a decline to completely flat. And the one thing that happened in and of course, a lot of this also, you need to have good story structure. It's not just because you're telling a good story of why channels grow. There's several things that need to kind of align, but they've both continued telling stories in every single video going forward. And the 30,000 channel is now coming up at, I think, 275,000. And the other one that was a little bit over 100,000 is approaching 400,000. Significant growth in a very short amount of time. Storytelling really does bring results. And those are just a couple examples, right? I'm curious, though, if you guys were to really dig in here, how can you simplify, like, classic 3X structure for everybody here.
Yeah. Well, if we're thinking of kind of
making it practical.
Yeah. If we're thinking of like the intro hook, starting with who's the character of the story? What do they want? Why can't they have what they want? What are maybe some of the obstacles in the way of this thing that they're going after? And are there any stakes? What's at stake if they can't get what they want? So those 4 questions maybe sounds like a lot, but that can be answered in a sentence, 2 sentences. It takes 5 seconds or less.
I'm gonna put you on the spot now.
Great. Oh no. Okay. Who's the character? What do they want? Why can't they have what they want? I really want another coffee right now because I'm a little sleepy. I've already had 2 coffees today though, and I really want to make sure that I can sleep tonight and not be over caffeinated. There's a bit of a start to a story there. There's me, the character, what I want, maybe some obstacles and stakes with the caffeine. I want this, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea.
I can't have it. Not sure if it can be a good idea. Blake, you got it. You got an idea?
Yeah,
Take us away. Or you have something? Yeah.
I just want to add on to quickly what Sam was saying too. I mean, he's got a start of a story. I think one thing I hear from creators too is like, oh, I have a vlogging channel. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what the story is until I do the day. It's like just having that portion of who's the character, what do they want, why can't they have what they want, potential obstacles you could face. Just having it to start out with, just waking up in the morning saying, what do I want today? And kind of playing that out and then watching the story unfold. That can be super beneficial in itself. Because again, that way you're going with some sort of a plan. Yes, that you don't know what's going to happen in the day. And that's the beauty of the story. But it takes the pressure off of trying to figure it out afterwards. That way you're kind of pre-planning, going with an idea, and then following through as that comes along. That's been a huge eye-opener for a lot of vlogging channels that I've worked with to think about, oh, okay, that makes total sense now. And knowing that too, that the story can happen within a couple hours of the day and not just, not putting the entire 12 hours you're awake or however long that may be. But.
Yeah, how would you even I think of some of the exercises of story spotting, right? Or Homework for Life, which is a Storyworthy is a book by Matthew Dix. He has in there an exercise it's called Homework for Life. We'll link a video where he talks about it on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, this is the point here is doesn't have to be Star Wars, doesn't have to be Lord of the Rings. It could literally be you being thirsty, waking up and needing a drink of water. There
is so much power in the structure and not the crazy high stakes Star Wars, Lord of the Rings type of story. A creator that I just was working with recently has kind of a daily vlog style channel and had a really simple concept for a video. Her daughter was coming home from college, and so she got home and was unpacking her things, and actually they had too much extra space in her dresser. They had the top drawer was empty. And so she had some other bags and things, and she was trying to decide, what should I put in this top drawer? That was kind of the obstacle. And what do I want? Questions that were addressed towards the beginning. And so the whole story was they ended up going to the store and tried to find some organizer bins and things that would fit into the dresser. There were some more obstacles because they didn't measure how tall it was. So they weren't sure if some of these little plastic dividers would actually fit or not. And then they had a transformation at the end of the story. The climax was they got home, it ended up that they fit in the dresser, and it was great. And it sounds like such a simple story, but in her retention graph, it is higher than her average retention towards the end too, because the story held their viewers to the end of the video.
And that's really the point too. And I love this example because is that the most intriguing story you've ever heard? No, it's not. And it's not on that channel. I know which channel you're talking about.
Yep.
But that's the point though. Storytelling can be powerful. It doesn't have to be epic, because if you're really crafting content for your it always comes back to target audience. If you really are crafting content for your target audience, they're going to be interested. Yeah. So I would love to know kind of like any additional thoughts that you two have around that, or like what other kinds of maybe story formats there are for the audience, because there are so many.
Yeah, there's one that actually Ryan Trahan references and he uses. So there's a writer named Dan Harmon, and he has a story structure called the Dan Harmon Circle. So he wrote a show called Community, Rick and Morty's. There's a Monster House is a movie he was also, but he follows the structure, which is really pretty similar to what we call the hero's journey as well too, which we teach as well. But it follows a structure of the character being in a spot where they're living in the normal, and they want something more out of their life, and then taking that chance and trying to pursue that, and then falling into struggles along the way. Somebody comes along to help them, or someone or something, doesn't need to be a person specifically, into then either getting that thing or tragically not getting it, going back to where they were, and how are they changed because of it. So a full transformation. But any of his shows, any of his movies, and even Ryan Trahan, again, if you watch Ryan Trahan's content and have this up next to you, you can spot each moment that he's having done in his video following that story structure. And it can be a really simple way. Again, just having a different roadmap to follow. Like we do have one we give all the time, which is a 3-act structure. There are various different types of story structures that might be easier for you to kind of take a look at or take a swing at. We teach, 3-act structure, the hero's journey. Some creators we've worked with gravitate to one more the other as they experiment and play with it. And that's the beauty of it. There's lots of different ways to approach it that makes sense for you and your content. If you two have any other story ideas or story structures that might fit for the audience that might be beneficial to them.
Yeah, another real simple one would be one that I believe Kurt Vonnegut first kind of created this. It's called Man in a Hole. So the premise is really you think about yourself walking along through life, you trip, boom, you're down in a hole, right? You want this thing, you trip, you fall. Now you're at the bottom of the hole. How do you get back out? So you have normal, and then you end up with new normal. You have to figure it out along the way. That's the transformation. And now you're out. There's your new normal. Simple structure. There's a great book by Kendra Hall, too, called Stories That Stick. And it's really, the premise behind it are a lot of stories just really have very simple structure. They don't have to be really all complex. Stories come in all different ways, and there are so many different types of story structures that we're not even talking about today. Like, we're not really leaning into hero's journey all that much. My point is here, experiment. Try the Man in a Hole structure. Try 3-act structure. Try simple structure where it's just about having conflict and some sort of tension and transformation. That at the end of the day, that's really all story is. But my point is try. And when you're experimenting, what's the thing I'm going to say, guys? An experiment doesn't look like
just one video. It's got to be a handful. So don't try it once, and then if it doesn't do super well, say stories aren't for me, it's never going to work. Definitely give it a good couple shots. And it's a skill too. A lot of this stuff is a skill. It takes time. You got to develop the muscle and get the reps and kind of find your voice too. So it takes some time.
It's never going to be perfect first try. I know a lot of creators who, as we teach it, struggle with it. And it's, even for myself, it took me a while to even see the value of the hero's journey. I stuck with the 3-act structure. That's what I knew. It made sense to me. I had to play with it and experiment with it. And that's why, there's so many great movies out there. These people invest this time into putting the reps in, learning how to tell stories more effectively and better. And we mentioned Storyworthy. That's a great example of how, finding people to teach you in an effective way. It's not going to be a flip of a switch. It can be really difficult sometimes to figure it out, but it is possible.
Yeah, it's a great point because, I'll even talk about my own personal experience. My first experience telling a story was before I was a strategist, and it was one of the most stressful things for me as a creator. I won't lie, but I overthought it. I made it this big thing. And the funny thing about it is the result, when you look at the retention graph, the actual story was flat as a rock. And then, of course, I made the quintessential mistake is I answered the question that I posed. And so the rest of the retention is gone in the video, which we've seen over and over in retention graphs. But that was still a home run for me because I actually held people from the moment that I started through the actual transformation, which was really cool. And that's the power of storytelling. And we have seen this over and over and over. This is a proven tactic on YouTube. There's a reason every single big creator on this platform tells stories. Even Mr. Beast, all of them. So what are some practical tactics that you guys have talked to creators about when it comes to retention?
One thing I see a lot of creators, especially when it comes to the talking head content, it'll just be talking head and nothing else. Keeping in mind, humans need visual stimulation. So sometimes it can be helpful to use the graphics to the best of your editing ability and knowledge too. I don't want to put any pressure on anybody to think you have to do this all the time or abuse it, because there is the other end of that too, where people put too much and it can be overstimulating. And again, I've seen that in my content where I've done that and people are like, okay, slow down, there's too much happening. So find that balance, but showing, not just telling. So as you're talking about something, you can illustrate that point with a visual, whether it's stock footage, you filming something, a picture, words, anything like that, to just draw their attention somewhere else, to re-stimulate their mind, to refocus on something. Because it can be hard to stare at something, stare at you the entire time. And when, listening to you, because we're visual, we want to be shown things constantly.
Yeah, that is so true. Another one that comes to mind is the power of but. I feel like we talk about that sometimes, but the power of but can be so important and so helpful when maybe you're covering a handful of different things in a video, because it can get really stale if it's maybe you're covering topic 1 and then this and then this. And then and if it's just constantly this and then this and then this, it gets really repetitive and just kind of boring. And so you can create a lot of new intrigue. And I don't remember who first said this. Maybe you guys remember, but the idea of opening and closing loops is really, that helped my brain so much to think about that, because as you're coming to the close of whatever this current loop you're in, and you're maybe saying like a closing statement of, this is why. And retention is so important for your overall engagement for your YouTube channel. But something that's actually really underrated for growth on YouTube is, and then boom, you're in this new loop, and using the word but is so much more intriguing. You're kind of like re-engaging your audience, and now you're kind of like, ooh, there's a new idea here. There's something it kind of piqued my interest, and I'm sitting up again. So even something small like that can really help pull somebody through your video.
Yeah, that's a great point. And another couple little tiny things would be also the pacing of the content in general. When you're dropping somebody in on a story and a hook, generally there's a lot of tension in the beginning. So a little bit more quicker, that wouldn't be a time to slow down, right? That would be a time to have, even think of music. And music can be such a powerful tool when it comes to helping the viewer feels something. So in the beginning, maybe you have a little bit more frantic stuff. Maybe there's more drum beats. There's a little bit of a different pace to whatever is going on visually and being said. And then when the video kind of starts, maybe it has a little bit of a different feel, maybe a little bit of a lighter feel, because we're just getting into the content at this time. So switch things up. Don't have the same music track from beginning to end, because you know what? It generally doesn't have ebbs and flows, and a story does have ebbs and flows. When you're introducing obstacles, maybe the music should match that, as well as maybe if you're building up to the climax, maybe the music should also build at that time too. And then when you're really having that transformative moment, or you're just kind of need to slow things down, you can either drop the music completely if it's something really important, or just really lower it, or maybe the pacing of it also matches. I feel like that's a real important practical thing. It's almost kind of like language in itself. So
Yeah, I feel like the channel Hot Ones, or the series Hot Ones, they do that really well. They'll start with the more mild hot wings, hot sauces, and it's good acoustic guitar, good vibes, and they're relaxing. And then once if you guys have watched and are familiar with Da Bomb, when they get to the really, really hot stuff, it's always this really heavy violins, really intense music, like they're in like a war or something like that. So they do a really good job of incorporating music at different levels to kind of help with that story structure.
If you remember in the beginning, I kind of talked about how do we kind of get you to the end here watching so that it's kind of like feels like a surprise, if you recall, but you're so engaged that your only choice is to move on and watch more in that moment. I would love for us to kind of unpack that a little bit for the audience. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. What does that mean, really?
Yeah, well, I guess my first question would be, what's the intent of the video? If this particular video is to move them into another video, then we want to be really intentional with the call to action. What are we calling them to do? If we're going to really get them into another video, ideally before we've shot this video, I've already planned out in my head what the most logical next video is for this viewer to go watch. So if you can quickly give a good pitch in the last 20 seconds or so of your video, get somebody to go engage and watch another video. That's going to help with your retention at the end too, because you're avoiding all of the ending language. They're going to ideally be kind of sitting forward in their seat, like, yeah, that is something that I really want. Then they'll go click and watch your next video, which maybe that has a call to action at the end of that video too. And then it kind of snowball effects from there.
Yeah, I feel like an important thing to mention is prior to even getting to the call to action, are you going too long? Can you cut maybe a third? Yes, cut a third. Maybe you need to even cut half, because if you're not holding the viewer in general, that would definitely be something to look at, right? From a zoomed out perspective.
Yeah. And I would say too that doesn't just mean cutting all of the ums and uhs and maybe little spaces and things like that. It's more, is there information there that doesn't necessarily need to be there? Because sometimes even leaving in the little breaths and the maybe an here or there can make it more human. So it's not necessarily just go cut these little pieces, but more look at it as from a whole, a more zoomed out perspective. Is there anything that really can fall to the cutting floor to make the best video for the viewer who's watching?
Yeah, and I feel like the videos that really make me feel surprised, I love getting to the end of a video. I'm actually always shocked when it happens. It's to the point where it's like, I actually have to pause because I don't want it to like autoplay to something else, because I am always like so cognizant of what just happened that I didn't see this coming. That's what I always ask myself. And I'm sure the audience has experienced that on YouTube. So I want you to kind of, when you stumble upon those videos where you get to the end and all of a sudden there's a call to action happening, just like Sam was talking about. And you're like, but wait a minute, that's the end of the story. And you're not ready for that to be over. What got you to there? What pulled you along so entrenched into the content that you didn't notice your cell phone? You didn't notice, somebody else, and all these other little things that will pull your attention, right? To the point that you got to the very end.
Yes. So a good example of this kind of the surprise at the end that you were talking about was this channel Sticks. I feel it's landed on kind of all of our homepages. These guys made
everywhere
a movie trailer for Ryan Trahan, but before that they made a movie trailer for Eric. Really interesting. If you haven't watched it yet, they basically found a doppelganger for both of these guys and like really studied them and found out kind of their past and kind of like what it's a story, like everything we're talking about, but everything that's kind of led them to where they're at today. And so they've shot this super high quality movie trailer for them, for the creators, which is a really interesting concept. But at the end of the Eric one, they left it off with this cliffhanger and the ending kind of crept up on you. And they're like, yeah, you guys will have to stay tuned for the next one that we're going to do. We're really excited about it. And as soon as they got to that part, the Ryan Trahan kind of theme song, if you guys remember from the Penny series, the way that he ended all of his videos during the Penny series. They ended that video with that song. So kind of teasing at they're going to do Ryan Trahan next, which they did. But that was a good example at the end, kind of that surprise that we're talking about.
And you know what? It really, honestly, this is an excellent example because just like a week ago, they had 2,000 subscribers. And just in really expertly telling a story and connecting known to unknown, let's be honest, as well. I mean, it's a couple of tactics here. How many subscribers do they have now?
Now they have 82,000.
1 week later.
Yeah, their newest video 10 days ago has 2 million views.
Crazy.
1 week later. Yeah, the power of storytelling.
Every week, we love to leave you creators with a power tip, something cool and new that YouTube is doing. And this week, this one is like a huge game changer across the entire platform. Like, it's unbelievable. And yeah, it's really exciting. There's been tons of news about it the last few days, especially within us and vidIQ here. And YouTube is actually lowering the entry barrier for the YouTube Partner Program, which is pretty insane. Instead of needing 1,000 subscribers now, all you need is 500 subscribers, 3 public uploads over the past 90 days, and 3,000 watch hours over the past 12 months, or 3 million shorts views over the last 90 days. So it will immediately unlock super chats, stickers, thanks, and memberships, as well as selling products on YouTube as well too. This is a kind of a tier system in a way, actually, kind of though. There's the original YouTube Partner Program still exists, which allows for ad revenue from YouTube to be earned. This new entry barrier is more or less monetizing your audience through these elements of the super chats, super thanks, memberships, those sorts of things. So you'll still have the requirements of the 1,000 watch hours, so 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours for the original Partner Program, but we now have a smaller entry barrier to monetize your audience. And really, if you have a strong community, it doesn't matter how big your audience is, you're still able to gain income in a business that way too. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, I love this because I feel like, it's hard to get to that tier where a new creator or a smaller channel can be monetized. And I love that now there's an opportunity to be able to monetize your audience in some way on the way there, because, let's be honest, it's hard to get to YPP, right? YouTube Partner Program is YPP is what we all nickname it. And I feel like I think of it kind of like the gold play button and the silver play button, right? This is our little halfway play button there for the YPP program. Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week. Bye.